Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the DRF Friday race of the day. It is race 7 at Saratoga, the Grade 3 Coronation Cup, going the 5.5 furlong distance on the turf for the 3-year-old fillies. And speaking of this Saratoga meet ramping up this week, you do want to check out our Saratoga packages for the entire meet at the DRF store. If you buy the package that includes the clock reports and betting strategies, as well as all 40 days of past performances, you can save up to 72% on the value of all of those things individually by bundling them together. You can get that. You can just get the past performances. Check out both of those packages at shop.drf.com. Like a little bit of rain predicted the start of this Saratoga meet. There's some rain in the forecast for Thursday. Hopefully that doesn't affect this Friday stakes race, since it is scheduled on the turf, going this 5.5 furlong distance. 7 fillies enter for the grass, 3 MTOs, and it feels like we got some speed drawn down towards the inside.
Yeah, pretty good race here. You do hope it stays on. A bunch of these horses just got rained off in the Soiree softly last month. It'd be nice to see them get to match up on turf here, Dave. I think it's a pretty good race. I mean, the shorter prices on your morning line are logical. I feel like just about everybody in this field has at least one race that would give them a chance.
With this being the DRF race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race. Just create a free account at DRF.com. Head on over to that race of the day page, and you can get access to free PPs, classic Formulator, Timeform US PPs for every single race of the day. Let's check out the Timeform US pace projector for this Coronation Cup, Mike, because it feels like trips are going to be key to the chances of a couple of these fillies, particularly the two that are shown towards the front end, the number 1, Make Haste, and the number 3, Chloe. They both have a ton of early speed, but it kind of feels like the hand of Flavien Prat on the 1 might be forced breaking from that inside post position.
It does feel like Make Haste is quick enough to get there if that's where Pratt wants her to be, assuming that she gets out of the gate, David. It would probably be a pretty good plan in this race to come out of there running. We'll see if they go.
Yeah, they feel like the 2 speeds in the race. That's why the favors frontrunners flag is showing up here, because when you get past those 2, there's really not a ton of tactical speed among anybody else in this field. So I think it really depends on how much those 2 speeds hook up in the early stages as to whether the others have a chance to close at the end of this race. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Make Haste, that horse that was shown leading on the pace projector, and we saw her speed on full display in this last victory at Gulfstream Park, where she wired a field going the 5 furlong distance. And Mike, anytime you win by about 5 lengths on the turf at 5 furlongs, you are dominant. And she had a right to be dominant in this race because she wasn't beating a whole lot, but you still had to like the way that she did it. The 84 buyer probably makes her the horse to beat here, but she is coming off a bit of a layoff.
Yeah, she is. We'll see. She was super sharp in that race that we just watched right there. And it's not like that race came out of nowhere, David. I mean, she was super impressive winning on debut as a 2-year-old over in Ireland. And after that, they just ran her in some super tough turf sprints over there, and she ran pretty well in some of those as well. You know, I felt like when Chloe beat her in the Melody of Colors, I didn't love the trip that Make Haste pulled in that race. They didn't get aggressive with her. She got blocked a little bit there. That performance was okay, but she really put it all together last time. I think she's super dangerous in here.
Yeah, she really looked like a different horse when they put her on the front end last time. And this hasn't been a planned layoff. They've been trying to get her in some races and just been rained off the turf. So we'll see if she can get back to top form off this layoff. The number 2, Italian Soiree, is a horse that's going to be trying something for the first time here. That's sprinting on the turf. She's tried sprinting on the dirt. She's tried the turf going longer, but she's never put the 2 together. And Mike, maybe sprinting on the turf is what she wants to do, because she's handled grass well enough in her longer races, and she was successful going shorter on the dirt early in her career. So she's going to have to run faster than she's run before to beat a field like this, but maybe she's got some upside trying this.
Yeah, I feel the same way about her. Maybe this is the combination that'll finally work for her, sprinting on the grass, because she's run some good races. Her turf races, none of them, I don't think you'd say they were great, David, but she didn't get particularly good trips, I don't think, in any one of those races. And I think it's fair to wonder how much it cost her anyway. She probably wasn't going to win any of those races, but it's not like she got perfect trips in those, so she handles the grass.
Yeah, she wasn't going to win at Memories of Silver 2 back her last turf race, but she got completely steadied out at the quarter pole that day, so not a race you want to put too much stock in. The number 3, Chloe, she's the other speed in here. As we mentioned earlier, she's the horse that beat Make Haste when they faced off in that Melody of Colors back in March at Gulfstream Park, and she was able to get to the front end that day, control things up top, and that's the kind of trip that you want to get at Gulfstream Park. Hasn't gotten back to the winner's circle since then, but she ran pretty well in the Senorita. Didn't love that field she was facing, but she put in a decent decent effort there, and then got run down on the dirt last time in that Soaring Softly that was rained off the grass. And she's getting back to what she wants to do here, Mike.
Yeah, this is probably what she really wants here. She's, for the most part, David, forget about stretching her out in the second career start on dirt. The Senorita two-back, I don't think she ran well at all that day, but that's a sort of a different kind of a turf sprint down the hill at Santa Anita. Yeah. So, maybe that's an excuse for her there. I feel like she's run well in every one of her other starts, even the last one on dirt. There was nothing wrong with that performance. Really good horse. Saturday Flirt ran her down in there. So, I don't know. She's okay. I kind of preferred the horse that she beat, Make Haste, to her in here, but we'll see if they get really aggressive here and put her on the front.
Yeah, I'm a little bothered that the two best races by far in her career were both at Gulfstream. Her only two races at Gulfstream, and she got to the front end in both of those races. Not sure it's going to happen in here with Make Haste also in the starting gate. The number 4, Laurice, is a horse that's just trying to get back to form because she looked like a horse with some potential early in her career as a 2-year-old, Mike. She won her debut up at Saratoga last summer, and she seemed like a horse that might have stakes potential after that. It's never really panned out, and she's really tailed off in the last couple of races, and it's just hard to point to her recent form or anything in that recent form to suggest that she's a contender in here.
Yeah, just don't love that she hasn't really gone forward after a couple of promising starts early on. I mean, I wonder if it's ever going to happen for her now. I realized that in that Melody of Colors, I was trying to be lenient, David, because they tried something really different there and it sort of took her all the way back off the pace, and that didn't work, but she ran fine that day. I just thought maybe she'd run better than that, that she has in one of her last two starts, and it just hasn't really happened.
The number 5, Spirited Boss, is another one that's going to be getting into a turf sprint for the first time in her career, kind of like Italian Soiree, who we talked about a little earlier. But at least Spirited Boss has some good prior turf races, Mike. She won the Sanibel Island against a decent field back in March at Gulfstream Park, and felt like the mile distance kind of got to her in her next turf race where she ranged up like she might get there in mid-stretch and really flattened out at the end of that Honey Rider. She was reined off the turf onto the dirt last time in the Soaring Softly, like her stablemate Chloe. Didn't seem like she handled the dirt as well as her stablemate, but now getting into a turf sprint, maybe this is what she wants to do because she did sprint effectively on synth early in her career.
Really liked pretty much every one of her first 4 starts. I think she thought that she ran well in all of them. The Honey Rider, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe just that little bit extra distance got to her. She was kind of disappointing there, that I thought. And then, dropping all the way back to 5.5 last time and then having to do it on dirt, that really worked against her. You could just see it just totally outpaced in that race and way far back. But she was actually running at the end of that race. I have no problem with the effort she put in there. I like her getting back to turf, and I like her sprinting on this surface. I thought she was interesting at a price.
And she faced some decent horses in those early synth races. Grade A, who was second in both of those first 2 starts of her career. She was third in the P-Patch at Ellis last weekend. So a horse who's really panned out since then. The number 6, Abientot, is a horse who is effective sprinting on the turf. You know that this is what she wants to do, but she is a deep closing sprinter, and how the pace develops is really going to be key to her chances in here, Mike. I thought she ran really well in the Limestone 2-back. That was a strong field. She was closing gamely between horses at the end after trying to find a path and upper stretch. I'm curious to know what you thought of the trip and ride last time in the Mamselle, because it just seemed like Dettori was just quarter horsing her every step of the way.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it really worked against her too. And I don't know if that was Dettori's decision or if the connections just decided, let's see if we can keep her a little closer and see if she's still as effective. But whatever the thinking was there, they tried to keep her close to the pace in there, and it sort of blew up in their face, and she didn't run that well. She's a closing sprinter, David, and she happens to be a really good one. I just don't know if this race is going to set up the right way for her.
Yeah, she's got that big kick when you hold her up and produce her in the stretch. And they were just trying to go every step of the way. That's not the way you ride a horse like this. We'll see if she gets the right pace for her best running style to be effective. The number 7, Gata Brazil. We'll take a look at her most recent effort when she upset the Stormy Blues at 13-1. She was running down a heavy favorite this way and got a pretty good trip in doing so. She's the horse in those pink blinkers and pink silks who's going to come between horses here. And she really lengthens her stride to run down a horse who doesn't seem to be stopping on the front end. And these two put a lot of distance between themselves and the rest of the field. Mike, you do wonder a little bit where this came from, but you go back to her 2-year-old season, she was pretty impressive when she broke her maiden at Laurel last August.
She was. I like this performance. I thought she ran really well in the one we're watching. Also really liked her turf debut last August. She was super impressive winning that day. And then the 3 races in between, they just aren't that good. I don't know what happened. Maybe she just sort of, the light bulb finally went back on last time, because she actually ran a really good race in that spot. And if she runs that way in here, she could be right there at the wire, I think, David. I thought about this horse for a long time because I do think she might have it in her.
Yeah, I thought about her too. She's the kind of horse, kind of like Abientot that we just talked about. When you hold her up early and produce that sprint kick, it's when she runs well. But when they put her on the lead two back, it just seemed like she didn't know what she was doing out there, and she folded up at the top of the stretch. Mike, let's go to picks for this Coronation Cup. Where did you land?
I'm going to take Make Haste down on the rail and just hope that Pratt isn't really playing any games here and lets her use her speed from the gauge. I just think it's a good spot for her to go forward and try to wire this field. The other horse that I thought long and hard about, and I ultimately put second as your top pick, Spirited Boss.
Yeah, I like some of her turf races enough, and I think turning back in distance is what she wants to do. So we'll see if putting those two things together, getting back to the turf and sprinting, can prove successful for the number 5 Spirited Boss. 5-6-1-7 for me and 1-5-6-7 for Mike in the DRF Friday race of the day, the Grade 3 Coronation Cup. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.